Welcome back, you guys. We're going to do another video for the developers here, and again, this is my personal feedback. What we're going to talk about now is the injuries that are related to VR. If you haven't noticed, I've been kind of out of the game for a little bit, and that was due to getting an injury while I was playing virtual reality. I got way too excited, and I don't mean this as a bad thing. I am not trying to point blame. I am not pointing blame whatsoever. This is a product of VR, and this is why we're making the video. We're going to talk about it. But it actually happened in drunken bar fights. So not only did that game break my controller, and it broke my back and shoulder a little bit. Let me tell you what happened. So I finally was feeling up to reapproaching the drunken bar fight, and Fist of Physics came out that day, the same day. That was that big robot fighting game, right? And I also had Gorn sitting off to the side, so I thought it would make a fun day to do these 3 different brawlers. And Drunken Bar Fight was the 3rd one that I did. Now I want to point out that I played Fist of Physics first, had a great time, and had the same exact problems that I had in Drunken Bar Fight. Oh shit, see? Oh shit, see? As far as getting too close to the walls, enemies being directly inside of the chaperone, which is promoting the walls to be hit, stuff like that. I also ended up smashing into the wall somewhere over here, I believe, and then said, you know what, actually I do have to make this much smaller. The chaperone does have to come in. So while some of you had said, yep, you got to make your chaperone smaller, I'm on both sides of the fence. I will do that for the very physical, swingy, punchy games, but then I reset it back up, and I still can't support that idea because I hate doing it. It's a real pain in the butt. I use the chaperone switcher and switch back and forth between the two, but I wish I could use the same big space. Anyways, that being said, I ended up mashing up my shoulder really bad. I had a dislocated shoulder that I had a bone graft done from my arm. They had to cake that bone back on my shoulder so it stayed in the socket, and I also had my rotator cuff reattached. And that's the problem I'm having right now, is rotator cuff problems. Now this is the 3rd time this has happened, and it's not Drunken Bar Fight's problem or fault or anything. It was literally just the 3rd game that I was playing of the day. And I also played Gorn that day as well. Now Gorn is just as bad as Drunken Bar Fight, Fist of Physics. They all land into the same category. And it's because it's a 360-degree brawler. Gorn, in my opinion, was more the safest out of all of them, because in Gorn I could at least have a back. I'd frequently put my foot to the back, or I'd even go like this and just touch the back to know that I had all this space out in front of me that I could just lunge out and then kind of retreat back to the wall, and again know that I've got all this comfort. So there is a way to attack this 360-degree thing. Gorn isn't totally 360-degree, nobody ever actually gets behind you. So I think there's some strategy there that he's doing. That's one thing I really noticed, is unless you put the body behind you, nobody ever gets behind you. So you've always got this kind of safe spot that you can retreat to. And that's how I told people to play. I said, because they get really far out, my dad almost put the thing through the wall. And that was with the chaperone out to here. I reduced the chaperone really small, and he still punched through it and almost got to the wall. But again, this dude's like almost a foot taller than I am, and when he swings, the chaperone ain't on. You just can't expect people to stop. We've already gone over that. So, but with Gorn, I tell everybody, hey, just go back to the wall, kind of touch it, maybe put your foot on it, and now you can feel free to, swing out there like this and that and such. So there is a technique to it. Now, here's why I really wanted to make the video, because apparently, as a third-party developer, you are liable to being sued. Now, it hasn't happened yet, but given time and the right circumstances and the right injury, it totally will. In the comments below, I'm going to link a really interesting article about how that would work and who's responsible. Now, in the end, basically what happens is Valve, HTC, whoever makes the hardware, Oculus, they all have in their fine print that you're using this at your sole risk. They are not responsible for any damage whatsoever that comes to you while you're playing these games. and then that responsibility falls onto the software developer. So in the end, they further talk about how it's their responsibility to be creating safe environments for us to play our games in. It's not necessarily Valve and their Chaperone that needs to do a better job. It's the game designer that's going to be in trouble and held liable. An interesting quote from that same thing, and again, you can find this down below in the comments below, and I highly recommend you read it. Every VR developer needs to read it. If the developer designs a virtual world negligently or without signposting risks and warnings, they may be unable to escape liability for injury caused as a result. So again, if the developer designs a virtual world negligently or without signposting risks and warnings, they may be unable to escape liability for injury caused as a result. So what does that mean as a developer? How could you avoid being sued? From what we're reading here, it sounds like if you're not warning people about the potential risks before they play the game, you're then going to open up a can of worms. So I really think if you're developing a fighting game, there needs to be fighting or physical game. Anything where you're doing physical movements, fast, you're moving around, you're jumping around, you're doing something. Any of those type of games that are physical, there needs to be a warning saying, hey, this is for you to figure out. Not necessarily me, but something saying, hey, Gorn, for example, make the perimeter a foot smaller. Same with Drunken Bar Fight. You know what? Before you play this game, you're going to have to make the perimeter a foot smaller. Don't play this wall to wall. A lot of people that are playing these games wall to wall, some of us have no choice. We don't have this big open space in our living room that we can set this up, for example. And so we don't really have a choice. So you need to put up a warning. That way you at least remove yourself from the liability of me going, well, I'm an idiot. So the other thing that we need to start doing is telling people to stretch. Now this sounds so stupid, but you know what? We have gotten to a point now where it's almost not video games anymore. It is virtual reality. And I don't reference it as I'm playing games or no, I'm in virtual reality. And we've seen enough now that you can get the same workout in your living room, in a room, playing some of these amazing games as you could running down the street, jogging, playing sports. It's just as good. Now, where the disconnect is coming in, I think, in my opinion, people are really getting into the game, but maybe they're not physical people. They're not the types that you would find them, working out from time to time or something like that. They don't know that they need to be stretching. I work out from time to time, not a crazy workout guy, but I just try to stay in basic physical fitness. And I often neglect to stretch. A little tiny reminder would be a great thing. Now, some of you are probably going to just be very upset or down about this and be like, why is he showing me this? But I have to show you my stretching routine because without a doubt, this is what I'm going into when I go into VR, period. I've also gotten feedback from friends that have played this as well, and my mom had the same problem over the holidays. I put her in Gorn. She only lasted through like the first guy, and she was playing it really hard, but the next day she woke up with a kink in her neck. I wake up with kinks in my neck all the time. And when you put this weight, this 2-pound headset on your head, that is constantly stressing out those muscles. So then when you go like this and you're whipping your head around, you're doing it with a weight. It's possible to like hyperextend your neck. So if you're swinging it around too fast, now you've got a weight that further promotes that damage. Same thing with the controllers. When we're throwing our hands around and throwing out punches, if somebody accidentally hyperextends their arm, full on this like locks it like this with the controller, you've also now added a pound into that damage. So now we've got weight to further enhance the damage. So hot squat is a fantastic example. The game sets you up, you hold the controllers, and you do squats. The game has you basically doing this. I don't even think it tells you to stretch. It tells you to basically, it does avoid itself of injury in the beginning. I can't remember exactly what it says, but it says they're not responsible for you getting hurt. But it doesn't say, hey, why don't you hold your leg, back and stretch out your muscles for about, 10 seconds each at least. Switch over to your other leg, pull it back. Let's stretch out those hamstrings before you start doing squats. Why don't you try to touch your toes here and there? Why don't you touch your toes 10 times? Or hold it for 30 seconds. I use a routine before I get into VR. I go exactly like this. I do 10, we're just gonna do 3 of each rotation. I go like this, 10 rotations, and I go back the other way. Now I twist my back. This is really what helps me. I start popping a lot at this point. I take my arms, I go behind my head just to stretch out my triceps, biceps and stuff. So just pull your back a little bit. Just basic stretching. Get your arms moving up. Now, very important, let's do some neck rotations. Roll your neck. So we do need some kind of warning system in the game, especially if it's going to be a physical game, because you're going to start seeing people pulling muscles, hurting their hands, just injuring things. I couldn't believe that I saw a dude kick his computer. I think it was Space Pirate Trainer. He posted a picture of his toe all broken and bloodied. So if anything, if you're making some type of physical game, you've got to at least warn people of the dangers of hitting the walls. Maybe advise them to pull in their chaperone. And if it's going to be one of those physical games, lots of these could benefit this. Thrill the Fight is a great example. You've got this amazing boxing game that's really awesome, but yet you're not telling anybody how to box. You're not telling anybody how to throw out a punch. And I don't want to be that guy that, oh, mister, I know how to throw out a punch. No. When you throw a punch, and I try not to punch like this. When I'm playing in VR, sometimes I do it, but I try not to. I try to still remember to put a little bit of rotation into it and get a good swing on. But there's a lot of guys that don't know that. And they're going like this. And they're just jacking their shit up and hyperextending their arms because you didn't teach them, hey, don't lock out your arm, for example. Here's how you throw a proper punch. Put a little twist into it, move your waist. Maybe, even teach them how to step into it. I think those are the same people that are saying, well, how are you hitting your walls? I've watched a bunch of people play Thrill the Fight, and it was amazing to see the different play styles. It went to dudes that were just, getting in there and attacking it like they would a real fight. Those are the guys that are hitting their walls. Watch Prometheus play. You can see in his Drunken Bar Fight video, for example, he got lucky twice. I'm surprised that gorilla didn't punch through the walls and break his controller. Fish Stick, he broke his during a lunging uppercut. So it's definitely a thing that we need to be warning people about. All right, guys, we're gonna load up Fist of Physics here, and I want to show you the whole chaperone thing. I want to show you the exact problem, because this is something we were only talking about in the previous chaperone videos, and now I can exactly show you the issue. So right there, see how he's in the chaperone right there? This is how people end up hitting the wall. 2 different scenarios. A, he's either outside of the chaperone and I step into it. So now I can't see the floor bounds. And you're gonna get wall smashing. Now you see if I could see how the chaperone kind of helps, but it doesn't really come on until I'm already swinging. I'm definitely swinging before this thing comes on. So it's really hard to play. This is a very dangerous game and very easy. See, he's, no matter what, he's always either right outside of the chaperone or right on it. There's a lot of space back here. I could, let's say, back up and play it more strategically, but this is the other part. Because, now the Drunken Bar Fight guy had said that he wanted to keep the 360-degree movement. And I had told him that that was cool, but it's also part of the problem. Now, like Gorn, if this was limiting me to a corner, I would at least have a safe zone that I could retreat back to and attack him like this. But that's not how you play this game. You move around and you hit the, get out of my way. I love the walking in this, by the way. It's super cool. So you move around. And then now this is going to just promote hitting the walls at weird angles. Let's say this guy surprises me and I jump off to the side or something like that. That's what the lady did in the videos below. She just goes like that into the wall. I mean, see? That doesn't even come on until I'm moving. So the chaperone's not working, in my opinion, in this format. I just think you need to restrict us more in these physical 360-degree combat games. There needs to be a safe zone and a planted spot to fight. Again, I have a hard time swinging at him because he's... See, we start getting into the... Chaperone starts turning on. So you could say, well, be smart enough and walk back. But yeah, you know, we can't be juggling the chaperone all the time. I need to be able to play the game and not worry about where I'm standing in the real world. And these games scare the shit out of me too. I just don't trust them anymore. Not always going to be seeing the chaperone, so if I'm hitting him up here, it does no good, and then I start going into the walls. And look look, I can actually start some of these large punches before the chaperone even, it just doesn't detect you in time. You get wound up, and if I was really throwing out a punch or stepping into it, I don't know if you've seen some of my other videos, but I'll even sometimes step into a punch. And look how much of this I'm getting going before it even registers. It's just not designed for combat. Or the scenario where you're like this and you're not looking at the ground and you decide that you're going to dodge an incoming shot or something and you go into the wall. You just don't see it in time. So I think confinement is the only way to fix this. Let's go ahead and check out another 360-degree brawler and I'll show you this same exact problem. Alright, so here we have another 360-degree brawler. And we're going to produce the same problems here. See, when I grab these, when I go to reach for these really quickly, they're not in the right spot. Now he wants to say, for example, that, you know, again, the movement's cool, you just need to remember to move. And that's true, but you're not always going to know where you're at. See, I'm really afraid to play this. So see, there you go. Here's how this screws up. See how he gets into the chaperone there? Now that's a problem. So now here's where the problems start. He's in the chaperone. If I get too aggressive here, I'm going to punch him. See how he's in it? I have to be really careful when they stand like that. Now, one of the things that I told the developer, I really thought he should have locked us into this space right here. Because just like Gorn, I use this as a mental barrier to know there's nothing in front of me and I can freely move around in here, but I've got a safe zone that keeps me mentally grounded, and the guys would just kind of come at you like so. Now this is the game that I went really crazy and kind of hyperextended or messed up my back a little bit. Now, when they get into the wall like so, this is when the damage happens, right there. If I was to punch him too vigorously, I could punch into the wall. Even though the chaperone's on right now, if I go like this from here, I could easily get up enough speed that it's just going to be the wrong time. It's super fun, but also look at this. After a while, the room becomes messed up. Like, this should be perfectly square. This shouldn't be like this right here. That corner right there that I'm looking at should be lined up with where I'm at. Oh, see? I'm not even trying to do that. If you saw what happened, I tried. Oh shit, I just did it again. Why am I outside now? Now here's where the danger comes. Here's where the danger comes. I'm probably not going to hit that wall right there. And that's because I see a physical wall there. But this over here gets sketchy. Uppercuts get sketchy because they start from back here and then they wind up. All right, I want to lastly leave you guys with Gorn, in case you haven't played it or seen it. I really think this is kind of the way to do it. I think Drunken Bar Fight could do exactly what Gorn does and still be an awesome game. I can't move, I'm confined to my space, and I've got a wall behind me. And that wall I basically just use as my spot that I know I shouldn't be swinging or anything. So I know I've got all this space over here to clobber this guy. Alright, same thing. Every single battle I kind of just back up a little bit towards the wall and I wait for him to come to me. And I think games that have weapons like so, they give you a little bit of range. Like see how he's in the Chaperone right now, but I can freely hit him without having to worry about, oh, right there. Oh! So really my favorite one goes to Gorn just because for whatever reason I seem to do less damage on this one. I do like all of the 360-degree brawlers, but just keep in mind if you're going to make one of these games, it's going to be difficult. And in time people will be hurting themselves really bad. We haven't had the big kahuna yet, but eventually someone's really going to break a hand or leg. There's a video in the comments below of one girl that actually dislocated her leg just from falling. But if this was fists, there'd be a lot, things change. See how I have to get like closer? And that's where shit goes out the door, because now I have to, see? There we go. Shit just changes when, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Oh, you can still hit me with his,